So we were talking about how to solve differential equation, and since the differential equation solving is not so simple, even though in mathematics you might have gone through it, but most of the times it is just procedural and with no conviction, no intuition. Intuition means we don't feel that we are solving the problem. When we solve some problems, then you might have observed that you being representing the intellect class from your respective classes during your high school days, at this time scholarship or maybe NTS prelim, you might be finding that yes, you are getting something and you are getting a feel of what you are solving. But when it goes to differential equation, that time you may solve but you don't get a feel. So what we want is that this differential equation, we have last time we have elaborated in detail, we have converted into a simple difference equation, right?
Yes.
We have a simple difference equation. So by converting into a simple difference equation, current output is equal to something into current input plus some other thing into previous output. So we got a very simple three-term equation. Listen very carefully. That current output sample is equal to something into current input sample plus some other thing into previous output sample. So what we got is that yes, on the right hand side there is now nothing which is unknown. Current input is known, that constant we have defined, and what should happen with the constant? It's very clear that as delta t tends to 0, as delta t tends to 0, then we will say what will happen? It will tend to 0, it will tend to 1, right? It's okay. So, but it is not 0. Listen very carefully. Delta t tends to 0, but delta t is not equal to 0. So we will approximate sometime later, but at this point of, I hope this is quite clear, that the main term, the main theme of converting differential equation into difference equation is, the derivative is nothing but the incremental ratio of current value at just previous sampling instant upon this, which is the sampling interval, right? And V0n is equal to VO n is equal to VOT at small t equal to n delta t. Same is for all V in sample as well. So we got this, but here what I wanted to indicate is that this equation is no doubt is a three-term, it's only a two-term equation, that is the output sample is there and it is sum of only two. That is, it's very simple, straightforward equation, but I don't like this equation in the sense that I don't want to keep it as it is, because the problem is this is something which I am not much comfortable. Why I am not so much comfortable? Because what we want, ultimately, output should be represent sum times input, and that sum depends upon the circuit parameters. In this case, this constant is all right, but this term is coming, which is no doubt that this differential equation I can't solve as it is. Here I could solve to a large extent. Means what you can do, knowing the output from the beginning, you can write the values, you can prepare a table, if that is the situation for water level model, then you can find out what will be next level by putting them in an observation table. But ultimately I don't want this. So how will you get rid of this? How will you get rid of this? That means I want previous output should not be part of my equation. So what will you do? Can anybody think on it? What should be the way with which I can get rid of? It's not impossible to get rid of it. How will you? What you need to follow a systematic. You might have studied sequence and series maybe at 11. So right now let us forget everything and focus on what should I proceed further, because this discussion is, I think it's important. I don't know whether A V in n plus B V O n minus 1. So how will you remove this? We need to remove the figure B V0 V O n minus 1. So how will you do that? So means you should feel that you have solved the equation. You got my point? On the right hand side, what I don't want anything, this is previous output I don't want. So I want to convert it into terms of previous input, that's alright. That is, I am very much fine with that. So how we can proceed for that? So this I want to get rid of. So in sequence there is familiar substitution method. But that also we will develop, because you should not feel this mechanical there. So this will be depend. I think last time we developed 1 or 2 steps I wrote. I will again write and then we will have a substitution. So what I can get, VON is equal to A V in n plus B into bracket. What is VON ultimately? A V in n minus 1 plus B VO n minus 2. Is it right? Yes. Is it okay? So what it is then? A V in n plus B A V in n minus 1 plus B square VO n minus 2. Is it right? Then also you can again change. So ultimately, this is what we want to conclude, take away of this entire discussion. By formula you can replace it, you can develop. I think that you can take as a homework or a tutorial, you can complete that by iteration. So what you can do, replace, what you can do here, put m equal to n minus 1. By putting m equal to n minus 1, you can get something. I think that is a simple, what we can say, clever mathematical jugglery, and you get the answer. So ultimately what you will be getting, you will get a term V in n, a term V in n minus 1, a term V in n minus 2. Then when you put want to replace that, n minus 2. So if I hope that I want you to accept means not because I say, accept by own thinking. Am I correct? Try to think your mind. So what this would be? Some constant into current input sample. What we are talking about? Current output sample, VON. Current output sample is some constant into current input sample plus some other constant into immediate previous input sample. plus some other, what you are doing? Hello? Look here. Plus some other sample into sample 2 instances ago. Plus some other sample into that. So what I will do, I will means for each, means what is current output? Current output sample is weighted sum of current and all previous input samples. Do you agree now? Current output sample is a weighted sum of current and all previous input samples, and these weights are the weight with which I am multiplying current sample. I will call that H0, means current sample. The H1. So in general, what is HK? What would be what is H1? This I will call H1. The constant which is multiplying the previous sample. What is H2? H2 is the constant which is multiplying the input sample which occurred 2 instances back. Or in general, what is HK? HK, listen very, very carefully now. HK is the weight with which the input which occurred K samples ago is contributing in the current output. Is the idea clear? HK is the weight with which the sample which occur, input sample you can say, or either way, input sample or input which occurred K sampling instances ago is contributing in the current output. And K starts from 0 and right goes back till infinity. K cannot be more than 1. K cannot go negative. Why K cannot go negative? K 0, 1, 2. K can't be minus 1. How will you justify impossibility of HK having a non-zero value for K less than 1? What will happen if H of minus 1 is having some non-zero value? What it will mean? What would be meaning of H of minus 1? Let us be very clear. Let us not. We take the definition HK and K equal to minus 1. What is the definition of HK? The proportion with which the input occurs K sampling instance ago is contributing in the current output. So if K is minus 1, the input which occurred minus 1 samples ago means what? The input which is going to occur after 1 sample. It can't contribute if it is a real-time system. If it is spatial domain, in image processing it can. But in real-time system, all HKs for K greater than 0 must be 0. Because we can't have a futuristic system. We can't have a system which will depend on future. Is it clear? So with this and this process, this equation is called as a very famous equation in signal processing, signal systems. This is convolution sum. Convol means current output is a mix, a weighted mix of current and all previous samples. And you will find that in given case, if you complete the task of finding out coefficients, HK you can find. You will find that as K goes on increasing, HK goes on reducing. So what that will mean? It will mean that the samples which were earlier will be contributing less. So this is what? This is the convolution sum for difference equation. But from where the difference equation has arisen? arise from differential equation. So now the question is, how you will convert this conversion sum into something which will. So what this is? This is approximate. This is applicable for difference equations, samples. If we want it to be applicable in actual scenario, for actual case, this is means हे आपण काय केलंय तर डायरेक्ट इंटिग्रेट डिफरन्शियल इक्वेशन हे सोडवायचं कसं हे मला लगेच सुचत नाही, म्हणून मी सोपं डिफरन्स इक्वेशन तयार केलं आणि ते डिफरन्स इक्वेशन सोडवायचा प्रयत्न केला. त्यामध्ये करंट आउटपुट इज इक्वल टू करंट इनपुट समथिंग इंटू करंट इनपुट प्लस समथिंग इंटू प्रिव्हियस आउटपुट आलं आणि प्रत्येक प्रिव्हियस आउटपुटला मी इनपुट मध्ये रिप्लेस केलं मागं. सो व्हॉट आय गेट, त्यामुळे दिस इज द an eternal phenomenon. Current thing depends on all previous things. Current thing is the outcome of all previous things in different proportions. So is it clear? So current output is weighted sum of current and all past previous inputs is called as conversion sum. Now how means, then a simple question, very simple one, that we wrote this difference equation. This leads to then what is the differential equation? What this is? This is when sampling instances come closer. So as delta t comes close, this will get reduced to this is a sum. You might have heard somewhere, maybe in a hurry or maybe in detail, integration is limit of sum. Integration is limit of sum. So can you, we don't expect exact answer, can you write down what kind of thing would be there for this? एकदम सोपं. This समेशनच्या ठिकाणी इंटिग्रेशन, लिमिट्स बदलायची काही आवश्यकता नाही. 0 to infinity. V in n minus k, आता k असणार नाही. k हे इंटिजर व्हेरिएबल होतं 0, 1, 2. त्याच्या ऐवजी काय येईल आता? k च्या ऐवजी काय येईल? एक कंटिन्युअस व्हेरिएबल येईल. एक कंटिन्युअस व्हेरिएबल ते कुठलं असेल तर आपण एक आता म्हणजे हे जे मी काही मांडतोय ते काही नवीन सिद्धांत नाही आहे, त्यामुळे व्हेरिएबल्स नाव देताना शक्यतो वापरातलं देऊया. यू म्हणतात त्याला, यू देऊया नाव त्याला. मग व्ही इन ऑफ एन मायनस के काय होईल साधारण? व्ही इन ऑफ एन नाही येणार तिथं, बरं आता आता व्ही इन एन मायनस के. एन म्हणजे काय इथं व्ही इन एन मायनस के हा एक सॅम्पल इन्स्टंट आहे बरोबर. तो कशाचा आहे फॉर्म्युला आपलं लॉजिक काय आहे. व्हॉट इज व्ही इन एन इज इक्वल टू व्ही इन टी ॲट टी इक्वल टू एन डेल्टा टी. मग आता काय येईल व्ही इन एन मायनस के काय म्हणता येईल आपल्याला. व्ही इन एन मायनस के इज व्ही इन ऑफ टी ॲट टी इक्वल टू एन मायनस के. एकदम सिंपल राईट. म्हणजेच काय व्ही इन टी ॲट टी इक्वल टू एन डेल्टा टी मायनस मग याच लॉजिकने हे काय येईल व्ही इन हे काय येईल टी ला मी जर टी मायनस के डेल्टा टीने रिप्लेस केलं तर हे काय येईल. फक्त यात एकच प्रॉब्लेम येतो. हे सोडवत असताना बऱ्याचदा म्हणजे फंडामेंटल नाही पण आपलं उत्तर माहीत नसतं काय ते. त्यामुळं सिली मिस्टेक मला शिकायला खूप असते. म्हणून मग हे कधी सोडवायचं काही ग्रुप टास्क करायचा म्हणजे तो आता एकट्याने करता येतं पण त्यात बऱ्याचदा वेळ जाण्याची शक्यता असते म्हणून ते थोडंसं अवॉइड करायचं. तर इथं मी एकदम सोपं लिहू शकतो का इथं अगदी तू इतक्याच खोलात पण जायची गरज नाही. एक त्यात सोपं केलं तर व्ही इन एन मायनस के आणि स्क्वेअर ब्रॅकेट म्हणजे डिस्क्रीट डोमेन. फक्त मी सॅम्पल्स घेतोय आणि नॉर्मल ब्रॅकेट म्हणजे कंटिन्युअस डोमेन. एकदम सोपं. जास्त बऱ्याचदा कसं होतं अति विचार केला की सायंटिफिकली करेक्ट पण प्रॅक्टिकली कॉम्प्लेक्स मध्ये इंडिपेंडंट शक्य असते. तेवढं जायचं नाही. अगदी सोपं सोपं करूया आपण. त्यात काय अडचण आहे. एन डेल्टा टी म्हणजेच काय टी इंटरमीडिएट टी बरोबर. म्हणजे आता थोडस लॉजिक लावत लावत हे आपल्याला सोल्युशन आपल्याला असं आवडलं पाहिजे. K delta T is equal to U. K delta T is equal to U. मग HK काय येईल. HK आता डेल्टा टी आहे नाही हा त्यात थोडं येतो. तर त्यामध्ये आपण फक्त दोन व्हेरिएबल काय घेतले त्यामध्ये दोन्ही इंडेक्सेस आहेत. दोन इंडेक्स हे करताना गोंधळून दोन घेतले. एकच इंडेक्स असलं तर एकच येतो. तेव्हा HK जर का आपण म्हणलं तर के डेल्टा टी जर यू असेल, के डेल्टा टी म्हणजे यू, तर आता हे थोडंसं बघा आता एकदम म्हणजे नंतर यू सायंटिफिकली कसं बसवा नंतर बघा. के डेल्टा टी म्हणजे आणि u, this is integration was, this index was k. Now this आता हे याचं खूप सायंटिफिक मी तयार करीन किंवा तुम्ही पॅरली वर्क करा, तेवढं आता इथं डेव्हलप करूच वेळ जाईल. ऍक्च्युली HU DU हा D, what is DU? DU is actually नुसता DU नसतोच, इंटिग्रल DU ही टर्म आहे ती. So we can say infinitesimally DU is delta U tending to 0 is DU. Delta U tending to 0 is DU. So if you multiply HU and HU DU, and if you take not infinitesimally small but some delta U, तर यातले HU आणि डेल्टा U चा प्रॉडक्ट म्हणजे HK होते. HU आणि इंटिग्रेशन लिमिट ऑफ सम मध्ये this U becoming from 0 to infinity, U changing from 0 to infinity, this is very this is called as, तुम्ही कुठं मॅथ्स ला झाले हे convolution integral. Convolution sum gets converted into convolution integral. So what is HU? HU is the contribution of the input which occurred U time ago in current output. तो VOT आहे. आता हे HK जे असतात वर ते फायनाइट असतात आणि HU च्या बाबतीमध्ये आता आय एम ट्राइंग माय, आणि अजून I will put few more video lectures so that you can proceed somewhat ahead, because midsem is also coming. At the same time, these being the very fundamental concepts which would be required for you in your entire engineering career, it will take some time to, what we can say, get these things hammered within you. We can, finding mean is simple. We are having samples, number of samples we add and divide by the total number of samples. But finding mean of some continuous variable, we take area under the curve and divide by the base width. When we are means now what is discrete, it is countable. It may be countably finite or countably infinite, is different thing. Whereas continuous is uncountable. Continuous is uncountable. I am trying my level best. You experience something. So in job is in 10 years of experience. Now if you say you are having around 13 years of learning experience, then if a question is asked, how much you learned in last week, समजा अभ्यास केला असेल तर जास्त असेल, नसेल तर कमी असेल, that you can tell. If a question is asked, how much you learned in the previous instant, instant is infinitesimally small time. Whereas infinite, listen very carefully, what is the length of a point? Infinitesimally small. Infinite number of infinitesimally small points create a finite length. Infinite number of infinitesimally small instants create a finite duration. म्हणजे एक वर्ष बघा, ह्याच्यासारखं सोपं कुठं नाही. आता हे अवघड असेल तर मग काहीच करणार नाही. एक वर्ष म्हणजे 12 महिने, एक महिना म्हणजे 30 दिवस, 30 दिवस म्हणजे एक दिवस 24 तास, एक तास 60 मिनिटं, एक मिनिट 60 सेकंद. पण ह्याच्या प्रत्येकामध्ये जो सेकंदाला काहीतरी फायनाईट ड्युरेशन आहे, ते अजून कमी 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 केलं तर ते इन्स्टंटला येतं. इन्स्टंट. सो listen very carefully. The time duration is finite. Your experience, you have gained something, that quantum, that wisdom we can say. Just we are taking some examples brutally. You have got some experience, you have spent some time in learning, and you have got some wisdom. So, because of learning for some finite time, you have gained some finite wisdom. Now, if a question is asked, what is the contribution of one particular instant in your total wisdom? Instant is infinitesimal. So, the contribution of that instant in your total wisdom is also infinitesimal. It can't be finite. Well, time duration is collection of infinite instants of infinite instance of infinitesimal duration. Right. Then each infinite duration you gather finite knowledge. You gather finite knowledge. So if knowledge is quantifiable in some finite quantity, time is quantifiable in finite quantity, then in given time, given knowledge. But in a given instant, when instant is infinitesimally small, the contribution in knowledge is also infinitesimally small. So it can't be, it is tending to zero. As the duration of an instant tends to zero, likewise the quantum of the knowledge which you gathered in an instant also tends to zero. Now let us take two examples. A very studious student in the class and a very notorious student in the class. So what will happen? Both are spending same time. Then at the end of the time, the knowledge gained by studious person would be more. Knowledge gained by notorious person would be less. But if a question is asked, in each instant how much knowledge both have gathered? In both cases it is infinitesimal. But the knowledge gained by the studious person will be more than the notorious person. So actually the problem is we learnt zero in our childhood and infinity at our adolescence. So we get a pseudo understanding about zero and confusion about infinity. Whereas the zero is not to be when we are in multiplicative domain, zero is not to be used. We have used infinity. What is the what we can say, exact contrast of infinity? Not zero, infinitesimal. I give you an example. If I have got this one, like if I go on doubling it, what will happen? Its length will grow more. If I go on making it half each time, this one, make it half, it will shrink to infinitesimal. It will never vanish. My process of doubling is never ending. Like that, my process of halving it, the halving म्हणजे करणार नाही, halving it to म्हणजे खूपच scientific बोले की करत नाही पाहिजे. My question of doubling is never ending, like the process of halving is never ending. Is it right? So, if I have started with this much, after some steps, this will grow somewhat. If I have started with this much, this would have also grown somewhat. After much steps, both become much larger. But in that case, the thing which started with this size and this thing started with this size, they will differ in length. So infinity is very large and infinite is very small. But both can't be equal. When they go beyond my range, or this limiting case I call the infinity on one side, and this limiting case on the other side I call as infinitesimal. Infinite and infinitesimal and not zero. Then for practical purposes, we say it to be zero, but it should be very much understood and remembered by everyone that it is infinitesimals. So, HKs are finite quantities, whereas HUs are infinitesimals. This is convolution integral. Means the current output is because of some kind of, this is summation, this is integration. Means current output is, what is convolution? If it is in what we can say, difference domain, approximate thing, sample domain, we will call as weighted sum. This is weighted sum and this is weighted integral. When HKs are the weights, here HUs are the weights. So current output is weighted integral of current and all previous input. Here all previous, this is also infinity. Here all previous, this is also infinity. So number of inputs in this case are also infinite. Number of inputs in this case are also infinite. But number of inputs in this case are countably infinite. I am here, 1 centimeter back, or if it is space domain, 1 second back, 1 second back, 1 second back. Or in space domain, 1 centimeter back, 1 centimeter back, 1 centimeter back. And this here immediately previous, then previous to previous. So number of points in earlier case, this one, 1 centimeter back, 1 centimeter back, these are countable. But again infinity, they are countably infinite. And in continuous case, this one, immediate previous point, immediate previous point, immediate previous point, these are again infinite, but these are uncountably infinite. So the weighted sum, when both are infinite sums, weighted sum of countable infinite points is sum, and when these are uncountably infinite points, it becomes integral. So convolution sum and convolution integral, I tried my level best to explain. We continue next time. Thank you.